We are going to read the story Dark They Were and Golden Eyed by a famous author, Ray Bradbury. As we look at the title, Dark They Were and Golden Eyed, it creates an aura of mystery and fear. Now, this author, Ray Bradbury, he is a famous, celebrated author of America, and he is a science fiction writer, and he is very popular in the 21st century as well. As we look at this image, you can see different mysterious creatures like a rocket flying to an alien planet, a haunted house, a dinosaur. All these are tackled in different stories by this author. Bradbury, he knew how to tackle a perfect combination of comedy, tragedy, mystery, and science fiction. And he created fascinating and gripping stories with the combination of these elements. The short story, Dark They Were and Golden Eyed, it is taken from his famous book, The Martian Chronicles. It was published in 1950. Now, in 1950, Mars was a planet engulfed in clouds of mystery and fear, an unknown arena. But now, we are a bit aware of this mystery. Now, while we look at the title and when we go through the story, we find that here the author is talking about a man's attempt to colonize Mars. And what are the effects of this colonization of human beings on Mars on the people who are already living there? How the colonists, they are reacting to the massive nuclear warfare on Earth. What is the factor which forces them to leave the planet Earth and move to not just to another country, but to another planet? What is the difference in human beings and the people of the Mars? How they are different in their eyes, in their skin color, in their heights, in their habits. All these are part of the story. Now, when we look at the summary, it is basically that there is one family, Bittering family, they move over to Mars. In the beginning, they are not ready to accept and be a part of this culture and this new environment. But later, with the passage of time, they become accustomed to all the atmosphere and circumstances, and they also start living as Martians. Now, the setting or the background. Here, the story is taking place in future on Mars, where the rocket has landed and the family has to start a new life. Over there, they built a white cottage on the settlements with the other human beings. This cottage is somewhat similar to what they had on Earth. Like every short story, there is a conflict and mystery over here. In the beginning, the head of the family, only he wants to go back, but the rest of the family doesn't. They are happy as they feel that they are safe over here. Then they hear the news that the rockets on the Earth, they have been destroyed and destructed due to the nuclear war. And then they notice that there is a change in themselves and in the environment where they are living. Today, we are going to look at the summary of the story, Dark They Were and Golden Eyed. This story as we have read, is about the Bittering family. When you look at the name Bittering, it means that something bitter, something unpleasant is written in the fate of this family. The author has chosen a very apt name for this family. Well, this family, they are a group of immigrants who, with the rest of the Earth people, have decided to escape the nuclear war on the Earth, and they are moving over to Mars. When they arrive at Mars, they find that these cities on Mars, they are quiet, empty and deserted. The climate is hot and dry. There is a strong wind which is blowing all day, and at night a thick fog engulfs everything. Just remember that as this is a kind of a mystery horror story, wind and fog, they are two very strong symbols of this mystery and horror and fear. Well, these Bitterings, they build a cottage which is very much similar to their home on Earth, and they start living over there. Harry, who is the head of the family, he decides that he is not going to live here. He wants to go back to Earth, as he feels that there is a danger in the atmosphere, in the unfavorable climate of this particular planet. Unfortunately, as Harry is planning all this, there is a disaster on Earth. A nuclear war starts, and New York City is destroyed. And all the aircrafts and the spacecrafts which were to take people from Earth to Mars and Mars to Earth, they are all destroyed. So they are in a kind of a trap, and they have to stay on Mars. At the same time, Harry starts noticing changes in the vegetation, in the blossoms, in the peach blossoms, and onions and grass. And he is suspicious. He feels that there is a kind of a Martian virus that is in the soil. And these crops which are grown in the soil, they are making them act like Martians. They find changes in their complexions, in their colors, and in their heights. Harry is very desperate, and he is trying to build a rocket so that he can take his family and himself back to Earth. He starts collecting metal objects and blueprints and drafts to construct a rocket. But at the same time, Harry and his own family, because of living on Mars, they notice certain changes in them. They are becoming taller, dark-skinned, and the color of their eyes, it is changing to golden. At the same time, Harry stops resisting this change. And he is convinced that it would be better if he spends the summer in the cool Martian villas where they can swim and they can enjoy in the water canals. And these colonists, they completely forget about their human origins and transform completely into Martians. Some years later, let's say 5 years later, a group of American astronauts arrive to take back the people to the Earth. But they find that there are no humans left, only the buildings and a rusted rocket. They conclude that perhaps there was a plague which wiped out all the human beings, and they are unable to recognize the people who had come from Earth and settled over there. We are looking at the different characters of the story, dark they were and golden-eyed. Please remember that there are two sets of characters. Ones are people from the Earth and the other ones are Martians. First of all, we are going to look at the character of Harry Bittering. He is the father in this story. The whole story is based upon Harry's thought processes. He is the first one who notices that there are certain changes which are coming into himself and the animals and his family. He is very rigid. He is not accepting this change. He decides that he wants to go back. So, he builds up a rocket and wants to take his family back to Earth. He is very hesitant to embrace the changes and the new environment. Basically, Harry is shown as an inflexible and a rigid person. And I would say that he is like a human being, average human being. He is not ready to accept change so easily. He represents the fear of change which is present in all of us. His character shows that all the time he is anxious, he is worried, and he is in a tense mental state. After Harry, we have Cora Bittering. Cora is Harry's wife and she is the mother of 3. Cora is slightly less rigid as compared to her husband, and she is trying to ease out her husband's concerns and she is more flexible. Then there are 3 children, Tim, Laura, and David. They are like their father in the beginning, not ready to be in this planet. They are afraid of the Martians. They, like their parents, are not very much flexible to this change. The eldest one, David, he sets up the idea that perhaps there are Martians on this planet, but they have not met them. Then the second one, Laura, she discovers that there is no space rocket left which can transport them to Earth or back. We are looking at the character sketch of Martians. In the story, Dark They Were in Golden-Eyed, there are 2 sets of characters. One is the human beings who have colonized Mars, and the other ones are these Martians. The interesting thing is that in the whole story, we don't come across any Martian. But the ideas of the people of the Earth, they are used to formulate a character of these people. What the Earth people have gathered about Martians is that they perhaps were devoid of some basic human negative instincts. For example, they were not into any sort of competition. They had learned to live in a very peaceful atmosphere. They had a very primitive lifestyle. Perhaps they did not need any houses to live in. They were devoid of the passions like lust and greed. They had left their houses deserted and had gone to live in the huge, vast plains of their planet. And their appearances, it seemed, they were very different from the people of the Earth. The people of the Mars, they were not social because they did not meet anyone from the Earth. They had hidden themselves somewhere in the vast planet. And they perhaps had a very inactive and a boring life. When the Bittering family, they reached the planet, they did not meet any Martian. The cities were deserted. The people of the earth, they were only able to see some of their uninhabited villas and houses, but they never came across any Martian. We are looking at the themes and the moral lessons of the story, dark they were and golden-eyed. Please remember that the theme is something which is running throughout the story. And usually, there is not just one theme present in one short story. There may be many, but they are amalgamated together. The first theme that we notice in this story is that what will happen if humans, they are going to move to Mars? What could be the circumstances which will force them to move away from their planet? Second theme that is very much apparent in this story is the misuse and the horrors of the technology and science. Because of misuse, the humans, they are required to leave their planet and move to another alien world. It also teaches us a moral lesson that we must respect Earth, as this is the only planet we have, and it is like a mother to us, as it is nurturing us, looking after us, and we are also required to look after the Earth. Then a major theme is that how people react to a new environment. For example, when someone from our society, they move to another country, they are not ready to adapt to the changes. They keep on thinking of the values of the home. But if they have to get settled in a new environment, they must adapt to the new environment. Over here, Bradbury is proving this kind of theme by comparing Harry Bittering to the rest of his family, and how Bittering in the beginning is very resistant to change, but later on becomes like the Martians. Another moral lesson that we have from this story is that Earth is the best place to live. It has all the beautiful things which, when human beings, they go to Mars, they do not find them over there. They don't find the kind of greenery, the kind of seas, oceans, mountains that they have on Earth. When they look at the deserted island of Mars, they are able to compare and contrast their planet with Mars, and they realize that Earth is actually one of the best places, or rather the only place to live. Then another threat, which is of nuclear war, is also present in this story. Because of the threat of nuclear war, the Bitterings and some of the other human beings, they are required to leave planet Earth and move to Mars. And when they are there, they notice that they cannot go back to Earth because the nuclear war destroyed New York City and the communication means between Earth and Mars. And then there is a longing for a simpler life. As Emerson has said, to be simple is to be great. When they are living on Mars, they realize that they can do away with a lot of earthly desires. And they start liking the way, a simple lifestyle of Martians. And then there is the fear of foreign political powers who are going to attack at any time to take the rule of the Earth.